This is Ridea Keeping It Real, and we are reading through the Bible using the Good News Bible. We're on the Apocrypha book, 2nd Maccabees, and we are up to chapter 10 of 2nd Maccabees. Let's get started. The rededication of the temple. Judas Maccabeus and his followers, under the leadership of the Lord, captured the temple and the city of Jerusalem. They tore down the altars, which foreigners had set up in the marketplace, and destroyed the other places of worship that had been built. They purified the temple and built a new altar. Then with new fire started by striking flint, they offered sacrifice for the first time in 2 years. They burnt incense, lighted the lamps, and set out the sacred loaves. After they had done all of this, they lay face down on the ground and prayed that the Most High would never again let such disasters strike them. They begged him to be merciful when he punished them for future sins and not hand them over anymore to the barbaric pagan Gentiles. They rededicated the temple on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, the same day of the month on which the temple had been desecrated by the Gentiles. This happy celebration lasted 8 days, like the Festival of Shelters. And the people remembered how only a short time before they had spent the Festival of Shelters wandering like wild animals in the mountains and living in caves. But now, carrying green palm branches and sticks decorated with ivy, they paraded around singing grateful praises to him who had brought about the purification of his temple. Everyone agreed that the entire Israelite nation should celebrate this festival each year. And it's still celebrated to this day. Right? Ptolemy Macron commits suicide. The days of Antiochus Epiphanes had come to an end. Now, remember that? He had these terrible intestinal issues and he fell off his chariot and all that, and he died a miserable death. Now, we will tell you about Antiochus Epiphanes. The son of this godless man, and give a summary of the evil effects of his wars. When he became king, he appointed a man by the name of Lysias to be in charge of the affairs of the state and to be chief governor of Greater Syria, replacing Ptolemy Macron, who had been the first governor to treat the Jews fairly. Macron had established peaceful relations with them in an attempt to make up for the wrongs they had suffered. As a result, the king's friends went to Epiphanes and accused Macron of treachery because he had abandoned the island of Cyprus, which King Philometor of Egypt had placed under his command, and had gone over to Antiochus Epiphanes. In fact, everyone called Macron a traitor. No longer able to maintain the respect that his office demanded, he committed suicide by taking poison. That makes me think of the movie that I just watched on Netflix with Queen, what was her name? The very famous African queen, the last pharaoh. I don't know why it's escaping me now, but she's right here. Cleopatra. For Cleopatra, there's a Netflix movie out about Cleopatra. It's super interesting, talking about how she did that. Interesting. All right. Judas Maccabeus defeats the Idumeans. The Idumeans is another word for Edomites, Edom, the relatives that don't have the covenant. This is just the Greek word for them. So, when Georgios became governor of Idumea, he kept a force of mercenaries and attacked the Jews at every opportunity. So this is Edom and Jacob. These are the descendants of Edom, attacking the Jews, the covenant people, at every opportunity. Not only this, but the Idumeans themselves controlled certain strategic fortresses. They were constantly harassing the Jews. They welcomed those who fled from Jerusalem and did everything they could to keep the country in a perpetual state of war. What does that remind you of? Where we as so-called black people are kept in a perpetual state of hating each other, or have been. We're figuring that out. They wanted us to hate each other, don't congregate together, don't talk together, hate each other, speak bad about each other, call each other names, all that. So, Judas Maccabeus and his men, after offering prayers for God's help, rushed out and made a vigorous attack against the Idumean fortress. They beat back those who were defending the walls and captured the fortresses, killing everyone they found, a total of about 20,000 people. About 9,000 of the enemy, however, managed to take refuge in two easily defended forts with everything they needed to withstand a siege. Judas had to go on to some other places in the country where he was more urgently needed, but he left behind Simon and Joseph together with Zacchaeus and his men. This force was large enough to continue the siege, but some of Simon's men were greedy, and when they were offered 140 pounds of silver, they let some of the enemies escape from the forts. When Judas heard what had happened, he called together the leaders of his troops and accused these men of selling their brothers and setting their enemies free to fight against them. Then he executed the traitors and immediately captured two forts. Judas was always successful in battle, and in his assault of those two forts, he killed more than 20,000 men. Judas defeats Timothy. Timothy, who was defeated by the Jews once before, had gathered a large number of cavalry from Asia and a tremendous force of mercenary troops, and was now advancing to take Judea by armed attack. But as the enemy forces were approaching, Judas and his men prayed to God. Notice he's always praying before each battle. They put on sackcloth, threw dirt on their heads, and lay face down on the steps of the altar, begging the Most High to help them by fighting against their enemies, as he had promised in his law. When they had finished praying, they took up their weapons. They prayed, but then they got up, still fought, and out of a good distance from Jerusalem, and stopped for the night not far from the enemy. I think this is where they just watched. Wait a minute, hold on, let me see what the story is. At daybreak, the two armies joined the battle. The Israelite forces depended upon both their bravery and their trust in the Most High for victory, while the enemy relied only on their ability to fight fiercely. When the fighting was at its worst, the enemy saw 5 handsome men riding on horses with gold bridles and leading the Israelite forces. These 5 men surrounded Judas, protecting him with their own armor and showering the enemy with arrows and thunderbolts. The enemy's forces then became so confused and bewildered that they broke ranks, and the Jews cut them to pieces, slaughtering 20,500 infantry and 600 cavalry. Timothy himself escaped to the strongly defended fort of Gezer, where his brother Chaereas was in command. Judas and his men besieged the fort for 4 days with great enthusiasm, but the men inside trusted in the security of their positions and shouted all sorts of terrible insults against the Jews and their God. At dawn on the 5th day, 20 of Judas's men, burning with anger at the insults, bravely climbed the wall. Climbed the wall, and with savage fury chopped down every one they met. At the same time, others climbed the walls on the other side of the fort and set the towers on fire. Many of the enemies were burned to death as the flames spread. A third force broke down the gates and let in the rest of Judas's men to capture the city. Timothy had hidden in the cistern, but they killed him, as well as his brother, Chaereas and Apollothanes. When it was over, the Jews celebrated by singing hymns and songs of thanksgiving to the Most High, who had shown them great kindness and had given them victory. So, what did they do? There's a little template there where they always prayed first. Prayed to the Most High first. And the Most High will come to their aid. And it's like, you can think you're okay. You can think you're safe. You can think God can't get to you, and you'd be what? Wrong. God can get to you. He can get to you if he wants to get to you. And you gotta look at this. This is so long ago. Look at these structures. Probably beautiful structures here. These guys are like, you think you're not. We're gonna get to you. We're gonna burn your house down. Better act like you know. But again, I like these charcoal pencils because I'm probably going to be able to color this whole thing in pretty quickly just by doing this. You're going to see. So, you got to think this is a book that the Protestants took out of the Bible, the Maccabees 1 and 2. People still celebrating Hanukkah. That's what this rededication of the temple is in that December time frame. Hesleth. It's Hanukkah. People are still celebrating it to this day. So these, like I said, you can look these events up. They happen. But these are not things that the churches wanted people to think. No. And why wouldn't they want people to think and know this? Because it's telling you, it's giving you the template. Pray to God. You're God's people. Pray to your God, the Most High God, the God that with a nod can take rulers down, kings down. Why would they want regular people to know that? They would not want regular people to know that, right? So they got to take this out. Like you might use this against them, which is kind of what we're reading about now. This happened. This is the God that we serve right here. Powerful God. Powerful God. This is a different way of coloring. It's not, I kind of like it only because it's just different. I just like it because it's different. But this to me is more really truly coloring right here. You actually have to color it in. You can't use your finger and smudge it. But I do like the difference in the two ways of coloring. I do. Ah, interesting. Interesting. So I'm reading this, and you too should be reading this. Not just listening to me read it, but read it for yourself. Read it in your own Bible. Contemplate what it means. Here we have it, chapter 10 of 2nd Maccabees. Until next time, try to keep it real.